Technology, automation, and artificial intelligence are wonderful advancements that help make our world easier and more efficient every day. But the downside may cost millions of Americans their jobs as companies look to streamline their processes and ultimately cut costs. Today we'll be discussing how we as a society look to solve this challenge and what it can mean for real estate investors. Hey House Stackers, welcome to episode number 38 of the Stacking Houses podcast. And if you're new to the podcast, our mission here is to help working professionals create passive streams of income through real estate investing and to help you get ahead through financial literacy. I'm your host, Damon Santa Maria, and my goal for each show is to provide you with some practical and inspiring information so that you can create a solid financial plan for yourself. So to help you on your journey, I want to give you a free copy of my book entitled How to Acquire Your First 10 Investment Properties. This book is my personal journey going from literally broke to creating a multi-million-dollar business. And when I say broke, I mean broke as a joke. I had to live in my parents' basement as an adult. And let me tell you, the ladies don't really care for that. And by ladies, of course, I mean my beautiful wife, Diane, of close to 20 years. So to get the book, all you have to do is go to stackinghouses.com/book. And while you're there, you can also check out our blog, as well as a great webinar training where I outline the step-by-step process that I took in order to get started in real estate. So here we are chugging along in 2022, and if you haven't noticed, there have been some incredible advances in technology in just the last few years. During my daily treadmill run, I typically watch CNBC, and I've been seeing all of these new commercials for a new automated security robot called Nightscope. Have you seen this? From what I can gather from the commercial, the company is looking to replace security guards in physical locations with security robots that patrol indoor and out. And I think this is an example of how technology is replacing human functions. And there are all kinds of examples where automation and artificial intelligence is in essence eliminating the need for humans to perform certain functions. Recently I was at McDonald's, and instead of being greeted by a cashier, I simply saw a kiosk. And in a matter of seconds, I had placed my order and paid with my credit card, and the food was delivered by a normal McDonald's worker. But, I wasn't expecting this. This seems more commonplace in grocery stores and in Walmart, but for some reason, at McDonald's, I just didn't expect to see this. But there's other examples as well. How about the automated functions of a help desk on many of today's websites, or the phone tree whenever you call into a 1-800 number. Press 1 for this, press 2 for that. And typically the last option is, press 0 for, an agent. So that can be a little bit frustrating, but I think we as society tend to adapt to that over time, right? My last example is with automated transportation. At some point in the near future, we're going to see all kinds of automated self-driving vehicles to take to the roads. And I envision trains and semis cruising across America with incredible efficiency, delivering all kinds of, products and goods. And, I don't think we've seen the end of the drones either. With all of this automated technology and AI, there comes incredible efficiencies, but how does this affect working Americans? What happens to all of those consumer-facing workers on the front lines? Sooner or later, many industries will be completely transformed, and fortunately, those companies that can drive cost savings to their bottom line will win, while the workers of those companies may be receiving pink slips. In this scenario, those that are unable to find other jobs, develop new skills, or get trained for the latest trends will ultimately find themselves in the unemployment line. And unfortunately, change is inevitable. And just like in nature, those that are unwilling or unable to adapt will go the way of the dinosaurs. So I think one of the more popular solutions to this problem is universal basic income, or what we call UBI. And proponents of UBI will argue that lower income Americans need greater assistance beyond traditional welfare systems. As we've seen, welfare systems in the past are particularly onerous. You have to kind of prove that you're looking for jobs, and there's a whole bunch of checks and balances in place, where UBI simplifies that process, where most any American can receive compensation under some plans that we've seen most recently by presidential candidate Andrew Yang. And we saw at the beginning of the pandemic how President Trump and his administration moved to approve $1,200 payments as a one-time plan to help those hardest hit. We also saw how there was an extension of $600 per week for unemployment benefits that I believe lasted an additional 4 months. And this type of compensation model may have been a precursor to what we may see in the future in terms of legislation for more comprehensive UBI. So what do we do as a society? How do we prepare ourselves for this wave of automation that will hit our country and, really the world over the next 20 years? So I think the answer is not necessarily a liberal versus conservative response. Let's leave politics out of this for the moment, and let's think about common sense solutions and how it may affect us as a society. In general, there are huge implications for an entire population of people that don't work. I know many of these frontline jobs are not dream careers. However, it gives a person purpose in life, irrespective of the pay grade. And my son and I, we volunteer 4 hours a month at the Houston Food Bank, which is, by the way, the largest food bank by distribution in the entire country. And although we don't get paid for this, it provides tremendous value to our personal bonding time, not to mention the fact that we're helping feed thousands of Houstonians every single month. And this gives us incredible purpose. So what happens to the working class that no longer have to get up out of bed, put clothes on, brush their teeth, and make their way out of the house? What effect does this have on not serving other humans and having that human interaction on a daily basis? Obviously, the answer goes beyond the scope of this simple podcast, but we as a society need to figure this out because, like it or not, automation and artificial intelligence are going to rapidly expand and change the landscape of employment in this country. Again, this is not about liberal versus conservative agendas. I'm not going to sway you either way, but I do think that universal basic income, UBI, is perhaps the most likely solution, giving people money for their basic needs in life. And what are those basic needs? Food, clothing, and shelter. The big problem with UBI is the cost and the potential restrictions that government entities could place on how the money is spent. If you run some basic math, you're going to see that $10,000 multiplied by 300 million Americans is $3 trillion annually. And do all 300 million Americans need that $10,000? Absolutely not. But again, a lot of the plans that we've seen in other countries, I know Alaska's got a similar plan, plans by presidential candidates, they're less restrictive on who gets the money, and basically considering that a line item for tax expenditures. But considering the fact that the public debt today is currently $30 trillion, that doesn't even cover future unfunded liabilities like Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, etc., there is no way that this could be sustainable, even if you were to raise taxes on every man, woman, and child. Even with comprehensive corporate tax reform, I don't see how this would become a reality without printing up more and more money. And we're seeing and hearing every day in the headline news, inflation is rising at unprecedented rates. But what I can see is a situation where more and more local governments step in and provide housing vouchers and continue to subsidize rent. And like it or not, we have a housing affordability issue in this country. And it's not as simple as saying landlords are greedy. In fact, I have not raised rent on most all my properties, even though I know I could and probably should. Now, it goes well beyond this. It lies with fundamental supply and demand constraints. And I spoke about this on previous podcasts. Builders cannot build affordable housing fast enough. Prices are rising and so are interest rates. You and I are not going to solve this, but what we can do is we can play this to our advantage without necessarily becoming gluttonous capitalists. And we as real estate investors can benefit because everyone does need a roof over their head. And what may change in terms of UBI are the funding sources of where the rent payments are coming from. In the future, we may see much more Section 8 payments. And for those of you that are not familiar, Section 8 is essentially government subsidized rent payments. Typically, the city, county, or state will make some or all of the rent payment on a sliding scale depending on the income level of those tenants. I currently have a Section 8 house, and there are definitely some pros and cons. Typically, it's a steady stream of income without a lot of hassle, but I have had, some delays in payments while I was waiting for, the budget to get approved. But overall, I can't complain. Now, the tenant class may be on the lower end. However, there are some, restrictions and monitoring to help ensure that your properties stay in good working conditions and don't, turn into slum. I guess everyone's experience can be a little bit different. But, I think if we think in macro trends, the government, some government, whether it's the federal government, the state, the local, the county, someone's going to need to step in and do something to fix the current situation, and then also have a longer term solution when inevitably the computers and the robots take over. So, I hope this has been eye-opening. I know just researching at a cursory level has been eye-opening for me. And, each week I try to discuss interesting and relevant topics and relate it back to investing and real estate investing. And, I'd love to help you get started on your career in real estate, help you get that next property, your first property. So please let me know how I can help by emailing me at damon@stackinghouses.com. And if you are seriously considering becoming an investor, check out Stacking Houses Academy, where you're going to learn the step-by-step process that my business partner Jim and I took to each grow our multi-million-dollar business. And so check that out at stackinghouses.com. And as I end with every podcast, if you liked what you heard today, I would appreciate a like, a share, or a review on the platform that you're listening on. And do me a favor, share this episode or previous episodes with friends and family members and begin the dialogue. So, hopefully I can help with those discussions as well. So, as I mentioned at the beginning of the show, I want to give you a free copy of my book entitled How to Acquire Your First 10 Investment Properties. And all you have to do is go to stackinghouses.com/book, and you can download it for free. And as I mentioned, this is a book that I wrote. It's my personal journey, literally going from broke to creating my multi-million-dollar business. So go and check that out. And until next time, this is Damon with stackinghouses.com, and happy investing, my friends.